for many years, I have felt strongly about taking care of our Earth, taking care of the environment. You know, I'm not a radical beating some political drum or anything like that. But I do believe that we are probably approaching what 87% of the scientists in this world are now calling a climate emergency. They say we're past the crisis stage and we're now at the emergency stage. And it's for a wide variety of reasons. I mean, think about the sheer population of the Earth, for one thing. Every new child born is another human being on this planet, and that's a larger population. We're living longer, and so we have to consider what that does. That will figure into one of the things I want to say today. And then we have all these other issues that we're facing. You know, what are our energy sources? How do we move to cleaner energy sources without complete destruction of our economic situation? How soon can we go to electric vehicles and get away from carbon-based fuels and that sort of thing? So, you know, we know that it's going to take time to get where we would like to be in the world, and it's going to take enormous cooperation around the world. So what I want to do today is, you know, we talked last week about how we destroy the Earth, like looking at Nauru, for example, and the country that ate itself. Today, I want us to begin by listening to the Earth itself. And the Earth is narrated by Julia Roberts. So, Ron, would you play this for us?
Some call me nature. Others call me Mother Nature. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years, 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. When I thrive, you thrive. When I falter, you falter. Or worse. But I've been here for eons. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. My oceans, my soil, my flowing streams, my forests, they all can take you or leave you. How you choose to live each day, whether you regard or disregard me, doesn't really matter to me. One way or the other. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you?
Okay, so that to me really puts it what we need to hear. The Earth is going to continue whether we're here or not. If the Earth gets sick, then we all get sick. If we overheat the planet, then we die, and the earth will continue, and it will evolve again. It will rise again. So that's what we're talking about. And the question today is, what can we do? How can we take care of the earth? I have 6 ideas I want to present to you. This is from a wide variety of reading I've done and research I've done. But before I share these ideas about what we can do, how can we help heal the earth from what's already been done, I want to hear from you. Let's hear from one another. What do you think, in your opinion, what is the single greatest thing or the several most important things that we as humans can do to help reverse, or at least to stop, what's happening on our planet? So you'll have to unmute yourself before you speak.
Yeah, this is Latrell.
Okay, thanks, Latrell.
I think that we've got to put more emphasis on not just talking, but showing our children, and particularly our age, our grandchildren, the importance. I think about when my son was, 7 or 8 years old, an aunt of mine from Kentucky was visiting, and we did a picnic at Stone Mountain. And she was ahead of her time as far as taking care of the earth. And I remember there was this little piece of paper outside our picnic blanket. And she told Chuck, you need to pick that up. And you need to always remember that God loaned us this earth. It is not ours. And he expects us to leave it the way we found it. And that made such an impression on him. He still talks about it today, and he's 50 plus years old. So I think that we need to do a better job of having our children and grandchildren see that we're committed to this so that they understand the priority.
You know, I couldn't help but think of Naomi Skaggs. Do some of you remember Coy and Naomi Skaggs? Yeah. I love them so much. And, Naomi, anything left over, any scraps, any vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, whatever. She had a little container there in her kitchen, and she would put all of it in there. And then every day she'd say, Coy, you need to take these out there to the compost pile. So they had a compost box out there. And I mean, nothing could be thrown in the trash that could be put in that compost bin. And, I adopted that practice. I do that every week. I take my containers out and I put them out there. And then I have, of course, when I mix it with some nice green grass clippings, I have some nice composted soil to work with after a while. That's a small thing, but what if a lot of people do small things? What else?
You used to go to the grocery store and you bring home your groceries in a paper bag.
Right.
And, people were alarmed that we were cutting down trees to make paper, but the paper dissolved when you threw it in the landfill and it wasn't there forever. So now we save the trees and we come home with everything in a plastic bag, and it's here forever. And traveling around the world, we've been to a lot of places, some of them third world countries, and it's appalling. Every stream, everything, you just see plastic bags blowing everywhere and plastic water bottles. And, we're guilty as everybody else. Instead of drinking tap water, we come home with a case of plastic water bottles every week, And I think one small thing we could do, and Carol and I have started doing that, is whenever we go to the store anywhere, Carol has these bags. She brings her bag with her. And so instead of bringing home the stuff in plastic bags, we bring home in the cloth bags that we carry in there. It just, I don't know how we get rid of all the plastic, or not. We're not going to get rid of what's here, but just keep on and on and on producing plastic to throw away is nuts.
And by the way, our plastics break down into, I think it's called PCBs, but it ends up back in our food chain. It ends up in the ocean. It ends up everywhere. The animals are eating it. The fish that we eat from the ocean now contain high levels of PCBs. A great many of them do. This is becoming the new emergency, is the pervasiveness of plastic everywhere. And these are carbon-based, they're made from carbon-based material. And so it never goes away. And we don't even know the damage it does to us when we ingest it too. Even, I'm talking about micro amounts of it. There is some speculation that the rise in the cancer rates are due to our overdependence on plastics. So I don't know what we do about that either.
Bill, this is Linda. This isn't exactly something that we can do, but it's almost before that. I was reading Richard Rohr from yesterday.
Yes.
And it just seems so relevant to what you've been doing. And he said, it is one of my deepest beliefs that we will not be able to address the environmental crisis we currently face without an intimacy. And he was talking about an intimacy with the earth.
Yes, I love
nature.
that.
And he said, I encourage you to make time every day to go outside and just notice what is there. Don't go with any expectations of what you're going to see. Don't go in a hurry, but look and listen, and just connect with it, and that has to precede our efforts to try to solve the crisis. The other thing he said that I just loved especially was he was talking about the indigenous view, recognizes the land as kin, as part of the lineage of life that we are all connected to. And so we have an obligation to care for the earth just as we do our human family. So I just really liked his thoughts.
I did too. All this week he's been on this same theme, and it's been wonderful. I hope a lot of you have been reading it. Any other ideas? All right, let me mention what I believe, what I have come to believe are the most vital ways that we can reduce the effects that we are now having on our planet. Now, we're going to have an effect. I mean, how many billion of us are there? I mean, we can't help but have an effect just from sheer numbers alone. So we are definitely in the age of the Anthropocene. The largest effect on our planet now is coming from human beings. I mean, that's just scientific fact. Doesn't mean that everything we're doing is negative. We're doing some very positive things, and I want to mention some of those today. I want to mention some things that are already happening that some of us may not even be aware of. Some of it I was not aware of until I was researching it recently. The first thing that we can reduce our impact upon the earth is personal awareness. Understand the problem. Now, I don't mean we go around talking doom and gloom. The sky is falling, the world's going to end. Fear-based approaches really don't help a whole lot. I'm not trying to scare anybody into taking care of the earth. It's much better if people simply love the earth, love the home that we've been given by God, and because we love it, we take care of it. I take care of my children because I love them. I don't do it out of a sense of fear about anything. I do it because I want to and because I love them. I think we have to have that same kinship with the earth, that we take care of it because we truly love it and are grateful that we're here. So personal awareness, understand the problem, understand the vastness of the problem, and then we'll be much more motivated to take our own particular actions. Number two, personal responsibility. Just like we were talking a minute ago. Look, several billion people making changes. What happens? A huge difference occurs. several billion people doing our part, conserving electricity, converting to anything that is not oil or gas based eventually. I mean, look, we already know the future is not in oil and gas. The future is not in coal. The future is in alternative forms of energy. That's already happening. I mean, you get your power bill from Georgia Power, right? They're encouraging you to conserve. They're encouraging you to help support new energy sources. So that tells you something right there. They know where it's headed. It's just at what pace can we do it and do it right without destroying our own economic interests. Number 3, global cooperation in a number of areas. Cooperating globally for tropical reforestation. Did you know that Brazil, last year in 2020, during the pandemic, Brazil lost a chunk of the rainforest the size of Delaware. And that's been happening every year, and it's continuing to happen. And I don't think anybody can doubt that what's happening to forested areas in the world is having a major impact. One scientist said, if we really wanted to change what's happening to the earth, if we really want to promote a healthy environment for us all, there's really one solution: plant trees everywhere. Keep planting trees, because trees soak up the carbon dioxide for us and convert it into oxygen that we breathe. We've got to have some kind of global political cooperation about what's happening to forests all over the world. And if you've ever been to a place that's been just completely deforested, you know not only how depressing it looks, but you also know that erosion increases. You know that we have more carbon dioxide because we have less trees that take the carbon dioxide out of the air. Global cooperation in ocean management. What's happening to our oceans is maybe the most alarming thing of all. It's being overfished. It's being polluted at an incredible rate. Sometime this week, just go on YouTube and just Google global oceanic pollution and look at what it shows you. Become personally aware and see for yourself what's happening to the magnificent oceans that sustain us. And there again, if something happens and our oceans are depleted and our oceans turn more acidic, the oceans will one day recover, but we will become extinct. We won't recover. We depend on the oceans. So global cooperation in all of these areas, and global cooperation in seeking new forms of energy. Number 4, technology and renewable resources. Have you ever been to Iceland? If you ever go to Iceland, visit one of the geothermal plants they have. It is amazing. They're taking what is underground right beneath them, all the hot water, they're converting it into steam, and they are entirely energy dependent, and their power bills are far lower than ours. And they're using their own resource right under their feet, geothermal sources. And it has transformed Iceland into probably one of the greenest places in the world today. And you can tell it in the atmosphere. You go to Iceland, just breathe the air. It's amazing. And nature there is as healthy and as beautiful as anywhere in the world. Have you heard of Tidal Energy? Tidal? Off the coast of Scotland, they are now completing the largest tidal platform for energy production in the world. The country of Scotland says that they will, within a few years, have all of their energy coming from the tides of the ocean. Now, this is something in its infancy, but it has begun. It's already happening in parts of the world. We're turning the natural movement of water, of the ocean waters, in the tidal systems into energy. It's entirely clean. It harms nothing. It takes nothing away. And once they're up and running, it's not even very expensive. So that is something that is up and coming, and you'll be hearing a lot more about it, I'm sure, in the years to come, because we have a lot more oceans than we have land. We have a lot more water than land, and it's constantly moving. And we have a great energy source right there. Of course, solar. Solar energy is the future. Wind energy is the future. And that's happening all over the world. By the way, did you know that in the United States, the wind energy potential in just 3 states could be enough to power all of our electrical needs from the Atlantic to the Pacific coast, the whole country? Did you know that? And those 3 states are 3 of the windiest states in the country. And they are Kansas, North Dakota, and Texas. They could, in theory, supply the entire nation with energy just from wind alone. Excuse me. I've got to close my door. You can probably hear what sounds like a wolf howling in the background. It's Hunter. I'm sorry. Hold on just a minute. Okay, sorry about that. I thought I had closed that door before we began. So, I mean, isn't that amazing, though, to realize that in that one part of the country alone, we could supply all of our energy needs for the whole country. That's not going to happen, but we could have other places that have good supply of wind most of the year. And that could be spread out across a lot of states and make a huge difference economically, but also environmentally. So, number 1, personal awareness. Number 2, personal responsibility. Each of us doing our part, recycling, not using plastic. By the way, I was coming out of the grocery store the other day from the big Kroger over here, and I realized I'd forgotten to bring my bags in with me. You know, my big cloth bags that I always keep in my trunk of my car. And so I do the self-checkout. And so I just put everything right back in my buggy. And I'm walking out. Of course, I have my receipt in my hand. And a guy stops me and says, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to my car. And I held up my receipt, and he said, you didn't want bags? I said, I don't want those plastic bags. And I forgot to bring mine in. So he said, okay, have a good day. But I could tell he wasn't used to that. Most people just take the plastic bags and go with it. But just ride down the highway and look at the trees littered with plastic bags hanging in the limbs. They'll be there, Lord knows how long, till the next big storm finally takes them out, I guess. I don't know. Number 3, global cooperation regarding tropical reforestation, ocean management, and renewable energy sources. Number 4, technology and the renewable sources, solar, wind, tidal, anything else we can think of. Number 5, education and family planning. I want you to think about that for a minute. The more educated we become, now listen to this, and this, you might not agree with this, but this is, studies are proving this to be true. The more educated people become, the more they eat plant-based diets. Number 1, because they understand that eating good fresh green food is so much better for your body than eating meat. Now, I'm not saying let's all go out and be vegetarians. I don't want to be one. I like chicken. I mean, good heavens, I live in Georgia. I have to like chicken. Chicken, poultry people paid the tithes at the church I served. Good heavens. And I like chicken. And I like steak occasionally. I don't eat it a lot because I think red meat is not good for your body if eaten too much. All of these things. But the point is, the more educated we become, the more we become educated about what is best for us to eat. And so we eat better kinds of food, which means we're eating less meat. Not only that, educating girls around the world. Now, not a problem here in the US, but think about Africa. Think about Afghanistan. Think about China. Think about places in the world where girls do not have access to education like boys do. Do you know what happens when girls get a good education? They have less children. They have less children. That is a study that is bearing out that fact abundantly. So girls get educated. They realize they have options. They don't have to just have children and just take care of children. And so you have fewer children and you have a population that becomes more stable. Now, that can be overdone as it is in Europe. Europe is having negative population growth now. That's one reason they're welcoming immigrants faster than other places in the world. They need people to come there. They need people to do some of the things that they're not willing to do, just like some of us need people to do things we're not willing to do. But the point is, education raises awareness, and it makes a big difference. Number 6, I want to talk a minute about trees and forests. I guess it's fear that's causing this right here in our own community, but everywhere I go now, especially in the last several weeks, there are crews at people's houses cutting down trees like I've never seen before. Good, beautiful, healthy trees just being cut down. Now, I understand if one is too close to your house or whatever. I don't know what the tree cutting craze is all about, but I know it's happening everywhere. I'm sure part of it has to do with recent storms where a lot of trees came down and a lot of them hit the corners of people's houses and so forth. But every time we cut down a tree, we are removing some of the carbon eaters out of our environment. Have you ever heard of silvopasturing? S-I-L-V-O, silvopasturing. It comes from the Latin word, 2 Latin words, silvo and pasture, which means forest grazing. So what do you see very often in places where they have a lot of cattle? Forests are clear cut. It's happening in Brazil. It's happening in Africa. Forests are clear cut so they can raise many more cattle. They'll have a lot more land for them to graze on. And it's terrible for the environment for that to happen. So there are some countries now, Finland, several Scandinavian countries, for example, that have begun a practice by law of silvopasturing. That is, the pastures have to have a certain amount of tree space. And you know what? It works great. The grass still grows if the forest is not too thick. The cows have shade in the heat of the day, and it's good for everybody. It's working. I mean, these are just small things, but they add up to big things over time. And banding together to stop the deforestation that is happening by for lack of a better term, just plain old economic greed. What's happening in Brazil is a corrupt government who turned and looked the other way, and the indigenous tribes are displaced, and they're the ones who really are taking care of the forest, and yet they're being run out of the forest. So those are 6 things that I would say would make an enormous difference. And the beauty is there's hope because these things are already happening. All over the world they're happening. If we can increase the pace of it, we'll be better off. Now, I want to mention the top 15 countries that are already making a big difference in the environment. I'm going to start with number 15 and go up to number 1. And by the way, which country do you think is number 1, the most eco-responsive country in the world?
Iceland.
You'll find out in a little bit. Let's start with number 15. And by the way, numbers 15 through 8 are on the list of the top 15 for one reason. Their environment has become so polluted, they're getting sick from the air they breathe. So out of their own vital self-interest, they are turning toward eco-friendly ways of doing things. Number 15, Peru. They're in the top 15 in the world. Number 14, believe it or not, Tunisia. Number 13, Singapore. A dense population, air pollution, they're cleaning it up, making a big difference. Number 12, believe it or not, Romania. Number 11, Belarus. Who would have believed it? Number 10, Hungary. Number 9, Trinidad and Tobago are tied. Number 8, Bulgaria. All of these have suffered from so much air pollution that for their own sakes, they have taken it upon themselves to clean up their environment. Remember what Julia Roberts said at the beginning, the earth is telling us, it doesn't matter to me what you do, it matters to you. These countries are finding that out. Okay, number 7. Number 7 in eco-awareness and doing something about the environment, the United States. We're number 7. Number 6, Canada. By the way, have any of you been watching Heartland on Netflix? Oh my goodness. If you want a good night's sleep, watch Heartland just before you go to bed. It'll make you feel so good. You'll be so happy, because they all have pretty happy endings, then you'll sleep well. But the beauty that you see, the beauty of that country, the pristine beauty is amazing. Number 6 is Canada. Number 5, Australia, an entire continent. Number 4, New Zealand. If you've been to New Zealand, you know how pristine it is and how beautiful. Number 3, Norway. Number 2, Finland. And number 1, Denmark. These are the top 15 cleanest countries in the world now, because they're all taking action to do something about our imprint on the climate and on the planet. By the way, I don't know why Costa Rica didn't make it into this, but Costa Rica is entirely energy dependent. They're depending on solar and wind. They use no oil anymore. Trace amounts. But if you've been to Costa Rica, and you talk about protecting their jungles and their environment, man, they are zealous about it. So that's the good news. It's already happening in so many places in the world. Here's the bad news. Do you know the areas that are doing the least so far? The worst of all is in Africa. That's probably not surprising. The next to worst is Iraq. And then North Korea. And then China. By the way, the Chinese, just this week you heard an announcement saying that they will partner with the United States, which is amazing. The United States and China are partnering on something. They will partner with us and other countries of the world to clean up their environment. And there again, it's out of self-interest. They are, if you've been there recently, major cities, they have to wear a mask all year long. Not because of the pandemic, but because they can't breathe. They can't breathe the air that they walk out into every day. India is also a problem. So we've got some major areas that need to do a lot of work, but we also have many areas that already are doing a lot of work. So there's some good news. And the good news is, the best news of all is, we really can make a difference. We really can be kinder to the earth. We really can take care of ourselves and our future and our children and their future by taking care of our planet. And it's already happening on a massive scale, and it's going to be happening more and more. In other words, it's a train you might as well get on because it's already moving at high speed. I think it puts it down in the simplest terms. Just get back in balance with nature and make sure that everything we do is sustainable. That's what many people around the world now are working toward. It takes a lot of education, and it takes a lot of awareness and self-awareness. What am I doing? What is my state doing? What is my country doing? And what is our world doing? So I leave you with all of that today. I hope that this has been helpful as we look at not only Earth Day and Earth Week that is now coming to a close, but also in looking at this home that God has made, our place in it, and that to have dominion over it does not mean to do whatever we want with it. It does mean to tend it, to take care of it, to nurture it. So thank you for giving me your ear on this for 2 Sundays.